on, everybody?
Hello, everyone. Happy Sabbath, happy Saturday, happy Friday. Rather, it is Friday, not Saturday yet, but happy Sabbath for the folks that are Sabbath keepers on our timeline, and for those who are not. Happy Friday. We made it. We made it to the end of the week. What a week it was, but we made
Mhm.
it. Hallelujah. And thank you, Jesus, for that opportunity to be able to say that. So much has transpired, so much has happened um, over the past 2 weeks because we weren't here last week, right? Were we here
I feel
last
like we
week?
were here last week.
Nope. No, we weren't here last week. We paused last week and then we came back to this week.
Why weren't we here last week?
I think you were traveling, right?
No, I was here.
You were here?
Yeah.
Okay. I stand corrected. He was here. So I guess I don't feel like we were on last week.
We probably weren't on, but I was definitely here.
I'm gonna
last week.
check. I'm gonna check. Microphone check. One,
check
two,
your
1, 2.
receipts.
I'm gonna check my receipts.
But in the
But-
meantime, as Carlene's checking her receipts, who's in the building tonight? Watching us virtually, we want to shout you out. We can give you horns. You remember when we used to do horns frequently? So if you want some horns, holla at your boy. Okay. Hey, Carlene, I'm going to give you just a little horn, Camilla.
No, give her all the horns, Camilla. Hey, girl, how are you? I hope
wish I
you had
had
a great week.
She gets the crickets.
Don't do that to my girl. She deserves all the horns because she shouts. She's the first one in the comments shouting
She
out.
calling me straight Texas.
'Cause
I'm
that's
not.
what
Don't
you
you see
are.
my hat? What that hat say? New York.
I mean, it says New York today, but you may
Yeah.
be.
She says we were on last week talking about parenting.
No, it was last week. We went on the 20th. The 27th was last week, and we were not on last week, the 27th. See, my brain, my memory be
I'm
on
just
point.
trying to figure out what did we do last Friday.
I said you were traveling.
Where did I go?
You want me to tell the people the business?
I don't remember where I was last Friday.
All right, let me show you where you were last Friday, and then you'll be like, oh, okay.
Oh.
See,
Okay,
what did I
was-
say? Okay, didn't I say okay? All right. So yeah, so
That makes
that's
sense.
what
Yeah,
happened.
it was a blur.
Yep, it's clearly a blur, but I'm glad I'm here to jar your memory, try to help you remember things. That's what I'm here for, because my memory is still impeccable after all these years.
I need to take my ginkgo biloba.
Take something. But I'm so glad.
Don't be laughing so hard. It's all right.
Oh my gosh, but I'm so glad that we are here in the building.
Mm-hmm.
And just here to give God all the glory, the praise, and the honor. So much happened this week, right? In our news, in our society, in our country, in other countries, like impending war, like all the things, not impending war. It's actually like,
The war has been going on for over a year.
yeah. And so that's been happening. And just so much, y'all, so much. I know I recently saw that the police officers, did you see the 3? I'm going to mention this for a little bit, but you saw the 3 police officers in the Memphis killing of, I forgot his name. I should not forget his name. Do you remember that case? The 3 black officers.
Yeah, 3 black officers that beat the black guy up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember it. That was last year. Around
So they
February.
So the more serious charges they were acquitted of, but the I think for tampering in
With
evidence or
evidence?
whatever, they got convicted for that charge. But the harsher of the charges, they did not.
So
They were acquitted,
they were acquitted for beating him up.
basically, for killing him. Let's just put it out there. But yeah, so that's that. There's that. What else is happening? It was the vice presidential debate that is transpired on Tuesday, and that was interesting for sure. I don't have much to say.
It was mid. It
Um,
was a snake oil salesman versus somebody who's didn't have a lot of experience debating, but Vance was like Vance was saying some crazy stuff
mhm.
that he didn't get checked on. But you know, I don't know if it's gonna really like shift the. I think people know who the. I feel like this. I feel like everybody knows who they want to vote for. Most people know who they want to vote for. I
Mhm.
think undecided voters are Trump supporters who don't want to vote for Trump, who are trying to find a reason not to vote for him. I feel like if there's
Or you
enough,
thinking they're a Republican and they're trying not to vote for Trump?
yeah, somewhere along that,
Mhm.
because I feel like I am surprised if up to now you don't know who you want to vote for. Like I think they're like either Trump supporters or Republicans who are having double, you know, like feel like they're gonna be betraying themselves if they vote otherwise,
Mhm.
or if they don't vote. But they are. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I all I'm saying is just vote. Please go out and
Right.
vote. Please go out and
Check to
vote.
see if you're registered. Vote.org.
Yeah.
There's so many different websites. Make sure that you're registered. If you haven't voted in a while, make sure, because some states, particularly the red ones, have been purging their voter roll, and you might show up and if you didn't vote in probably last 2 or 3 elections or whatever, you might show up and your name is not there and you can't vote because you can't register to vote on the day of election.
Yeah. So I think they started in some states, they started early voting.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually want to do early voting.
Right.
I want to get that. I want to get in there and do my part as soon as possible because it is important. And so much is on the line. And like uh, former President Obama said, what did he say? He said that, with movies when there's a sequel, usually the
The
sequel
sequel is
is the
worse
worst.
than the original. Yep.
So there's just so many different sequels I can name right now. I'll be like, dang, I really wanted the sequel, but when I saw the sequel, I was like, oh, gross. They should have just kept the original. And I just feel like we don't need a sequel. We need, we need to vote for so many things. So many things. Yeah. I don't know how else to put it.
Just vote.
Just like that. Just vote. Okay. So that this is not a whatchamacallit. This is not the essence of our show tonight. Instead, we just kind of highlighting some things that are happening in today for this week or whatnot. There's just so many other things that we can mention, but we want to make sure that we are precise in our time and that we come on, we say what we need to say, and then we chat with you, we chat it up with you guys, and then we chuck the deuces. So
Mm-hmm.
tonight is no different. So week before last, we came on and we Jamie coined this amazing title of our series. Apparently, I'm a parent. And last time we
Now,
spoke,
let me say, I'm pretty sure it's somebody else has that as well.
I'm sure, but the
Yeah.
fact that you termed it that,
Yeah, I wish like I could claim
you claim,
ownership of it.
okay,
I
okay,
didn't
but
see it anywhere else, but I'm pretty sure we're not the only ones. It's a common thing. Like I think people can come up with that.
I know, but you came up with it in this moment. So I'm
Okay.
just giving Jackie Jacket, or as they say in Guyana, they say give Jackie Jacket, or I'm giving you your props, like for coming up. For
All
me, if
right.
it were up to me, it would literally be um parenting or parenting styles, very basic. But you did chose apparently I'm a parent, so I'm gonna toss it over to you.
All right. Thank you. So we are talking about last week. We talked about different parenting styles and just what kind of style I am versus you. I think I'm more of a what is it? Inclusive type of father. Let me look it up because I had it up before, but let me find it real quick. So the four different parenting styles that oh, it's on my phone. That's why. But the four authoritarian. Remember, we were having trouble with
We
that.
struggled. We struggle.
Authoritative, permissive, and uninvolved. And I feel like I am the permissive parenting. You bounce between maybe all four. Would you say? Not except for uninvolved.
I am very
Yeah,
involved.
yeah.
I told you I'm a recovering helicopter mom,
Right.
so I'm involved. I would say that the I think I would bounce between all of them,
Except for uninvolved.
except for uninvolved.
Yeah. And uninvolved, according to this, our children are given a lot of freedom as this type of parent typically stays out of the way. They
Hmm.
fulfill the child's basic needs while remaining detached from the child's life. An uninvolved parent does not utilize a particular disciplining style and has limited communication with their child. They tend to offer little nurturing while having little or no expectations of their children. Children of uninvolved parents are usually resilient and may even be more self sufficient than with other types of upbringing.
Okay, and this is from. I need you to go ahead and
This is
quote it.
from the
Quote it.
National Library of Medicine, and I can drop the.
It doesn't need to. I just wanted you to make sure, like as we are talking, that we also give Jackie jacket.
All right.
um. Okay, so definitely not whatever that thing was, uninvolved parent, but I feel like you are. You feel like you are one as well. Yeah, yeah. I think you're consistently, as we spoke in our last episode, that you're consistently it wasn't permissive. That was in the wording before. Um, I forgot what we said it was, but nevertheless, I guess permissive would be a little bit close to the parenting style that you would be most showing or you most kind of hold to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So so we talked about parenting styles last time we were on, and we just, we kind of talked through how the different parenting styles can actually be a pro in the house, um, opposed to it being seen as a negative kind of
Connotation.
connotation. Sorry, thank you. And so, um, I think that it is important that to identify those kind of different styles and to see how they complement each other, opposed to like how it can be used against us or even the children.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess the tonight what we want to focus on is with the different parenting styles that you may have in your home, as we think about children, and it's important for them to know that as parents, as their parents, that you are always showing a united front. I've seen spaces or been in spaces, witnessed where a parent, one parent would actually, in front of the child, express their, I don't know, express their opinion about a particular thing that is completely opposite to what another parent said. Or in some instances, if a parent says no to something, the child goes to another parent and that parent says yes. So now the child is confused because they're just like, excuse me, they're like, wait, mommy said yes, but daddy said no. So I think one of the things that we want to establish, we want to talk through tonight is how important it is to show a united front, even though or even if in times when you both are not in agreement.
Right. So when do you bite your tongue? So I guess the question to the audience, is for those of you that you are you and your spouse have children, or maybe what you've grown up and experienced, like when there's times when you disagree with how your spouse may discipline or give access, what do you do? Do you automatically just say something, or do you wait until later on, or do you just ignore it and just be like, you know what? I ain't fighting this fight.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. Like, how do you guys respond? For those of you who are parents, how do you respond to that? Like, how does it work in your household? Um, yeah.
Yeah. I think for us,
Well, can we? Um, Camilla responded, "Hey, Saba, happy Sabbath! Congratulations! Whoop whoop." Okay.
I think you can have different parenting styles, but if y'all have the same goal on character traits you want for your children, it can be more seamless.
Okay. Okay. But if y'all have the same goal or character traits you want for your children, okay.
Yeah.
So I feel that um if you have different parenting style, a different for us, we have a different parenting style. But sometimes we use the different parenting styles in different situations to lead. For example, because I know that I'm kind of like structured, straightforward in some cases, in most cases, um, there may call a time where I'm that versus you may be a little bit more patient or a little bit more long suffering. Um, then we allow you or we agree that you would kind of take the lead in conversations or whatnot.
Right.
Um, but there are moments or there are times when Jamie and I are not on one accord.
I wouldn't say not on one accord. I would say we probably don't agree.
Which is not being on one accord, no?
I think so. My definition of not being on one accord is probably a little bit further. I hear what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say not on one accord where we don't show our disagreement in front of our children.
Right. We may not be on one accord. I'm talking about with us.
Uh-huh.
And okay, so let's just put it out there.
Right. So I'll say yes. There have been times when we have not been on one accord,
Correct.
which is normal.
Which is normal. However, I don't know if it was a spoken or unspoken where we decided from the beginning that every time we are in front of our girls and a decision has to be made or one person is disciplining a child, that we never show the child or our girls that there is a kind of like it's lopsided. We always show up and we always show a united front for the most part.
Yep. I think all the parts. I don't think we've ever in when you are if you are or I am disciplining them or telling them one thing where we've ever stepped in, one of us has stepped in and said, no, maybe you have.
Okay.
Maybe you have
All
stepped in and
right.
said, I don't agree.
In
Maybe you
front of
have.
the kids?
Yes. Maybe you have. I don't know specifically, but I feel like you would be more quick to come out and say, I don't agree with that if I'm saying something versus I would if you're saying something.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
Like now.
Right.
I don't
I don't think you
think
can I don't think you can resist.
Okay, so let's put this out there. So this kind of approach takes practice and it also takes lots of restraint. Like, especially for me because I know that it's hard for me to not respond as soon as something happens, right? For Jamie's response time is very slow. Like it takes him a while to respond to something because maybe I don't know what happens in your mind where you process through it several times and then you respond or you kind of look at all the angles and you're very analytic in that way depending on what the situation is. I would say that you are very patient in your response versus me. I'm not that person off the bat. Like it's gonna come out. It may not come out. Um, it may not come out the same way every time, but somehow, some way, it's going to. I'm going to be able. I'm going to express it in some way.
Right. Right.
But it
I
takes lots of restraint.
It takes lots of restraint, which I think you're getting better at it. But I feel like if I'm saying something and you don't agree with it, I know I feel like you would say something in that moment, but I know that I can recount on instances where we've spoken about it after.
Yes, that is a must.
And then there's instances where we've talked about it before we go into
Correct.
discipline. So it's almost like we know what the other one is going to say. It's not by surprise that will say that. And then there's instances when one of us is wrong and I'll or you will defend the child to say, like, actually, she wasn't doing that.
Correct.
So we've shown like
Ooh.
all kind of almost all spectrums. But I think United Front, as Otniel and others are saying, you got to be on that with kids because kids are smart. Kids are very, very smart.
Kids are very smart and they know who to play. Like they
Mhm.
know who is showing some form of, I don't know,
Weakness,
I don't want to say weakness or allegiance to what it is that they
passiveness.
are, the allegiance to what it is that they want or they in what they're trying to do. I feel like they know for sure. And so Saba says, if I disagree, I speak up about it early, even in front of the kids, because it's hard to recreate the moment with the kids. Okay. I mean, and if that works for you and your family, for sure, that's, you know, some families have that kind of dynamic where it's just like in the moment, this is what we do. It. You make it, I guess, um, a learning experience, or what's the word? Like a teachable moment. I know for us, what we do is if there is, depending on what it is, like if Jamie's disciplining the girls and I feel like it's not, the punishment does not quite line up with the crime, I know like I'll kind of like insert and say, well, this is not really what it was. This is what it really is, as you just mentioned. But that takes practice where not trying to come in hot and try to like you have to be mindful and careful of your words, right? Because the child is observing your reaction to your significant other, to the other parent, and you're modeling, right? We're modeling for them. So it's important for us to kind of be very mindful of how it's coming out, that it's not brash, that it's respectful, that it's not yelling or like that kind of a thing, but it's still, there's still boundaries even in the moment.
Correct. Correct. I don't have anything else to add to it. I just think it's just important as parents to communicate. I can't imagine the difficulty with um people that are divorced and have to parent a child because I
Mhm.
know like that was something that
Mm.
I had to deal with. You know, one parent is over here allowing me to do certain things, and another parent is over there not allowing me to do certain things. One parent is more lenient, the other parent. So I don't even know how that one accord. I'm sure it does work because there's a lot of people that grow up in divorce homes and the parents co-parent
Mhm.
in a such a way. But I always feel like, and even with us, or even in a marriage, I feel like there's always one parent that compromises.
I think a part of this entire scenario, there has to be compromise in some way,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're not on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone has to compromise and be like, all right, let's put a pin in this. Let's come back. Let's revisit this thing and come back again. Try again.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel that in I think in our dynamic with the different parenting styles, I think that um, if I don't agree with whatever it is that you're doing or saying in the moment, I just bite my tongue and just be like, okay, that's what it is. If that's what daddy says, that's what daddy says, right? Um, and I think that has helped us in our conflicts too, like not being in conflict with each other, be like, yo, why did you do that? But just trusting that you felt it best in that moment to deal with the situation the way that you dealt with it. And for me not to come in as the authoritative one, usually, right? To kind of come in and take over, but
Hmm.
allowing the process to kind of go through what it needs to go through, whether I agree with it or don't agree with it.
Right. Now, I also think parenting is contingent on your style, your personality.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we stated on this before, and you notice all too well about me that I'm non confrontational, that I'll avoid it
Uh-huh.
when I want to.
Right.
As you say, I am confrontational when I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, like, how many folks out there that are listening to us, are there any of you who may disagree or don't like how uh, the uh, your spouse may discipline or whatever they do for your child, and do you actually just never say anything? You just be like, you know what, whatever, and just keep it moving.
Mercy.
Is it always healthy to say something? Do you feel like you always have to say something
While we have our folks are thinking about the question you just asked, you want to read?
in front of the small one in the moment? We call the other to help us with something. Then we discuss if we think the other has gone too far. I think that's the
Mm.
healthy way to do it. I think that's definitely
Then we
the
go back
the
to the
wise
same
one.
page.
And then we go back on the same page. Yeah, I think that's the wise way to do it. Not in front of the child. I think also it's good to just be able to go, you know, I don't think that was a, I don't necessarily agree with that. But then also, too, right? So if you don't agree with it, do you go back and reverse it? So if it's like a discipline, so say for, all right, let's create a scenario.
Okay. I
Um,
like scenarios.
let's actually use tonight dessert.
Okay.
Child doesn't finish eating their vegetables. They eat
Uh-huh.
some of it,
Mm-hmm.
most of it, but not all of it. Punishment is no dessert.
Mm-hmm.
We go back in the room. We talk about it. Be like, you know what? Them vegetables actually didn't taste really that good the way you prepared it. And they did eat most of it. I kind of think what you did was, it's kind of messed up because they look forward to having dessert on a Friday evening.
Mm-hmm.
You may be like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I agree. Do you go back and reverse it to tell the child, you know what, made a mistake, or do we just leave it and let it be?
I think it depends on I think it depends on the compromise. Like what's the compromise and how is this benefiting the child? Like what is it that we want to teach the child? Do we want to teach the child that if I said something or if I say something, if this is like a rule that you know that before you eat dessert that you have to eat your food, like eat your vegetables, right? Especially your vegetables. Eat your food, but especially your vegetables, right? Then are we then teaching them that you don't have to finish your vegetable this time. Next time you may or you may not. So the child may be, it depends on what it is. I feel like it depends on what it is that you're trying to teach the child.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we got BC. If it has to be reversed, it should be done by the parent who gave the punishment. So it doesn't seem
Right.
like the other parent came in and checked the initial one.
That's right. Because then the child begins to look and say, oh, that part. I don't want to say it takes I feel like it takes the power away from that child, from that parent who kind of set the rule in motion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then BC also says, but I think it's important to model to your child that sometimes parents make mistakes. Because if you take into consideration, let's take in consideration certain factors, there's a possibility that they can be full if you give them too much food. The other possibility is the vegetables did not taste good. Like the way that it was prepared, even you had a hard time swallowing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you take into consideration all of those different things, is that grounds to reverse it, or is it just nasty? Is it just no, stick to our guns, no dessert? That's it.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. For the authoritarian parent, it's like, no, we're not sticking to it. Like, we're not breaking. There's no compromise. Like, this is what it is. It's already in motion. Breaking it will kind of may have even more long-term effects or whatnot. But for the permissible parent, that it may be, no, it's okay. let's let's have grace and let them not have to eat it this time. They can not have to do it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, I feel like it depends on the parenting styles, the dynamics, and all those things. At the end of the day, I think that any conflict that you may have, it like communicating is key. Like, if you don't talk about it, then begins to fester, it begins to grow and get bigger and bigger, and then you realize that um it may be something very small next time, but you are so, maybe you didn't feel like you were heard as the parent, like you didn't feel like you mattered in those moments. Like, I feel that it's important to communicate, to say what it is that you need to say, and kind of hash it out
Mm-hmm.
by yourselves, not in front of the child.
Mm-hmm. I think everything. I mean, we could probably talk about what is healthy to talk about in front of your children, but I think when parents are trying to figure things out, there's some conversations you just don't want to have in front of your kids
Mm-hmm.
because you just don't want to confuse them. And
Correct.
then also too, you don't, yeah, and I think confuse them in the sense that because we kept saying kids are smart, so you don't want the child to be like, oh, that's the weaker parent,
Mm-hmm.
or that's the pushover parent,
Mm-hmm.
or like I'm not gonna go to that parent, I'm gonna go to this parent. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's always important to be on that same page, same eyes,
Yep.
same everything, same
Yep.
level.
Because kids are smart, man. They can smell your fear of trying not to be that parent. I truly believe that kids, they know
Hmm.
so much.
Yeah. Yeah, she says it really depends on how big of a deal it is for me. I don't force food, especially growing in a Caribbean household that sometimes I don't plan to pass on. But in other households, that's a big deal.
Now, question, Camilla, is that something that you and your husband share? That very same view, or are you kind of at opposite ends of that view? I'm interested to know. Um, BC says, yeah, I think it all depends. If the vegetables taste like feet in a fish tank, then then I understand it. But then sometimes there's a lesson or principle. Sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do. No ice cream.
I get it. I get it. And I get what Camilla is saying too. Like I think did we talk about that last week? Like trying not to parent like your parents,
Mm-hmm.
or the trauma you face, you don't want to pass that on to your children
Mm-hmm.
because I remember, man, we used to have those what is it, like World War IV or V, where it was like you not go to sleep until you eat all those vegetables. And it wasn't like preparing vegetables nicely. Particularly too when being a 7-day Adventist, and when that help message come around,
Mm-hmm.
They don't season them vegetables. They don't do nothing. That joint is straight raw. And you got to sit there and eat it and force food. So, yeah, I'm kind of like lenient when it comes to the forcing food type of thing, because I'm almost like, yo, if you full, you full. You can't eat no more, you can't eat no more. But then there are some kids that are smart that know how to play on those emotions, that will act like they're full or act like they can't eat it or whatever. So it's it's a it's a balancing act, because I could sit there sometimes and I could be like, yo, do they really gotta eat all of it? And the authoritarian parent will be like, yes, I don't care. Yes, they have to eat all of it. And I think those are like different styles of parenting, because I can see the authoritarian like, no, this is what I say, this has to go. And the permissive parent probably is a non-confrontational parent.
Are you talking about yourself?
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying the permissive parent is probably a non-confrontational parent who would just sit there and be like, you know what? Go ahead. But I think that a healthy dynamic is not having two people with the same style of parenting.
Yes, yes. And so I'm put us out there. Basically, you described us.
Really?
Yeah, you said really like you're surprised.
Yeah, I don't think you're authoritarian. I just think that you just have.
But as it relates to like food and stuff, like for the most part, like it's not forceful like what it was like growing up, but I'm going to put enough food on like I'm going to put enough food
I'm laughing at the comments. Go ahead.
on the plate to that I in my brain like I'm thinking about like okay, last time they ate about this much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to put that much on the plate, kind of guaranteeing like yeah, you're going to be able to eat this. But this is what always strikes as, and I think BC said it, like you are full, but then the moment you see a popsicle or some dessert come out, all of a sudden you're no longer full. And our kids would do it. Some of them, well, I would say one would do it specifically. She'll be like, I'm full. And as soon as I'll say, okay, I guess that means that you're not going to have dessert, best believe that plate is like completely, like all the food is gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel that it's a balance. You gotta have to know your kid enough to say, okay, are they trying to play me in this moment? Like, are they saying that they're full, but they're really not full? They just don't want to eat this anymore, but they would rather eat something sweet. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like you really have to know your kid and you really have to be able to decipher whether or not this is something that you need to like be on top of them with.
Yeah, I think you just have to know your child. I think that's critical in making decisions about everything and anything. I think you have to know your child and you have to know what they can handle versus what they can handle. Because there
Mhm.
are some kids, like you said, that will be like, yo, I'm full, but they'll go eat the popsicle.
Right.
And there could be a lot of reasons why they'll go eat the popsicle. Popsicle tastes better than the food,
Mhm.
right? It's nicer, it's sweet, it tastes better. But also too, like sometimes there are like you like sometimes they just look like they done. You could just see on their face like they're done. And I think that's also that compassionate parenting that sometimes is needed in
Very
authoritarian
true.
and the dynamic with permissive. So like we talk, I'm looking at BC and Camilla's conversation here. They were some bad kids. They talking about they used to put the food in the plant,
Mercy, not the
the
food in the
plant pot.
plant. Not the food in the plant. Hiding food. But I
Yeah,
think
I used to hide food. I used to put it in a napkin. I think back then I really wanted a dog because I used to always see in the movies where they would like
uh
drop the food on the floor and let the dog eat it. Our dog don't be eating. Our dog, he would eat it, right?
it depends on what it is. I feel for the most part he would eat. whatever it is that we're eating,
Yeah.
for sure. But I feel that he says you were just as bad as them. Um, I think that it is very important that as we continue to parent, that we continue to have conversation and discuss goals that we have for raising our kids, our girls. Um, I think that there's just so many ways that we can help heal them without having to traumatize them with a whole lot of um, arguing or a whole lot of where you're not on the same page and they're in the middle of it, or we're putting them in the middle and we're like, who do you agree with? Do you agree with mommy or do you agree with daddy? Like,
Right.
that is, wow. That is not okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pitting your child against the other parent, wanting your child to side with you in an argument. And I think if it's done in jest, like you're kind of joking and it's playful, but in some moments it isn't so playful, where the kid is in the middle and they're just like, I don't want to be in the middle anymore. I just want you to parent me, and that's it. So I think we just have to be mindful. I know there's no perfect scenario. No, none of us are perfect. We all out here trying to figure out the best way to parent our kid. Every household is different. Every parenting style combination is different. Um, so I'm definitely acknowledging that. But I think it's also very important that we're mindful of checking ourselves first before putting ourselves in front of the kids, because they sense, or they can sense when Jamie and I are off. They can sense when you're off. They're like, okay. They kind of get weird.
Right.
They kind of start acting weird around us because it's like something is off. And I think that's like one of the worst feelings of having to pull them into, not on purpose, but pull them into situations that Jamie and I are trying to communicate and trying to, do a better job in. Um, but I think it's just important for us to be mindful of those goals that we have for raising our kids.
Right. Exactly. And I think to your point, it's that being on one accord, it's communication, it's knowing, like, how we gonna go. It's almost like going into battle, or going into like, even like going into battle, even like when you was gonna fight somebody, like you had a strategy, like, yo, if you're gonna tag up or team up, you do this or you do that. I think it's the same thing with kids, right? Like with parenting, you have to be on the same strategy, same one accord going into it. And then after whatever was the outcome, you have a conversation about it if needs be, right? So I think that's our game plan most of the time. There's times when Carlene's not around and I have to do something, and there's also times when I'm not around and you got to do something, and I have to hear about it, or she hears about it, and it is what it is. But I think as long as we both know we have the best interests of the kids at heart,
Yeah.
um, and just trying to help them be the best humans that they can be in this world. God forbid when we're gone and they're left here, that they are conducting themselves in the way that they should. I think that's the gist of parenting and disciplining in my book.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important too that for Jamie and I, because we communicate so often, um, that it is important for us to know what each other's strengths are, right? Jamie is really good at coming up with ideas and solutions, like really, really good in trying to um, look at things from a different perspective. I sometimes can be very narrow, very like short, not short sighted, but sometimes I have these blinders on and I'm just like, this is all that I see. I just see the situation, the problem at hand. And Jamie be like, no, take them blinders off and look at it from this perspective. And then it makes a world of difference. So I think that's also important to consider, where you recognize each other's strengths. I had to realize that I don't have it all together, or I don't have all the answers. I wish I did, but I don't. So I love tagging Jamie in all the time, not every now and again, but all the time, tagging him in. There's a situation this week where we were having a conversation with one of our daughters, and it was a very, very important, very deep conversation. Um, and when Jamie walked into the space, he was just like, he didn't know what to do. He was just like, do I stay? Do I go? But I asked my daughter, I was just like, hey, is it okay if daddy joins in on this conversation? And she was like, yeah, that's fine. I don't mind. So Jamie joined in the conversation, and he was able to give a whole different perspective to the entire situation. And I told him, like, at the end of the conversation after our daughter left, I was just like, I love parenting with you. Like, parenting with you is amazing because it's like yin and yang. Like, we are almost complete opposites in terms of our approach sometimes, but then we kind of come together in such a beautiful way for not only to help each other but to help our children. So, like, I'm giving you kudos on this in
No,
this space
I appreciate
to
that,
just
but
let you know, like, it's
yeah,
dope being able to parent with you, co-parent with you.
and my sentiments are the same too. Because I was gonna say, as you were talking, it's interesting how our parenting styles are different because you have like patience, like you sit down
Oh, I have
and
patience. Yeah.
you can talk, like
Yeah,
you
I have
can
patience.
listen and talk to them and have a conversation. I think the interesting part about me is I don't have that patience to sit down the way you sit down and talk to them and get them to open up and speak. You always start that. I don't, that's not my strong suit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, I don't know, I don't care, whatever. Do this, do that, don't do that. Like you kind of, you have a way of letting them have, giving them the freedom to express themselves, which is really, I guess, as a counter reaction to maybe how you were brought up. I don't know if you were able to express yourself. I think for me, and I know we've shared this before, like I don't think I've ever grown up in a household where I've like truly got to express, or how I see the girls sit down and talk and express their
Mm,
feelings.
yeah.
Like, help me understand this. Like that patient. Almost felt like if the question came, why did you do that? I'm scared as heck to answer that question because I feel like I'm gonna get slapped or hit anyway. So
Yeah.
I think how you parent and how you are able to talk to them and they feel comfortable with expressing themselves. I think that's great. And I think I come in at the right time
Mm-hmm.
when it's time for maybe a different perspective
Yeah.
or a different way of looking at it. But I like me and Caitlin I'll drive Caitlin to school and that car will be quiet.
Oh wow.
We'll probably say like 2 or 3 words to each other and it's just, all right, love you, sweetie. See you later. That's it.
We're gonna have to talk about that offline. Which is I mean, I think there's room for silence, right? I think there's room for allowing children to kind of just sit and be quiet, and you sit and be quiet based on like your personality. You know, some people like to talk and some people don't. And I feel like that's okay. I guess this is probably like the only insert that I would do, just based off of, I don't know if it's something that I read no, it wasn't from the book. I think there's something that I heard, and it was just saying like, use those opportunities that you have one-on-one with your child to like truly learn about them and try to understand them as much as possible. Um, because the more that you spend time with them and you see their personalities starting to develop, the more you kind of get like um a true view of who they are. So you sometimes using those opportunities to like truly get to know the child. But again, I think your personality is just like, we good, we chilling.
Yeah, I think me and Caitlin and Amber, we talk differently. I think the way they talk to you is differently than how they talk to me.
Yeah, it is.
And we still have conversations and moments, but like I'm okay. Me and Caitlin will share like a few words. We'll talk, and then it's quiet, and then we'll talk again, and then we'll move on. So I just think it's definitely different styles. I think they communicate with us differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed they communicate with you differently than the way they communicate with me. They play with me differently than the way they play with you.
Yes. Sorry.
So it's like I think it's a perfect balance for them as well. And I think they're gonna grow up knowing like, hey, my dad, I remember doing this, and I remember my dad this, and I remember my mom this and my mom that. So it's just making this oil and water
Yeah.
mixed together
Yeah.
and or flour and sugar or whatever it is to bake a perfect cake is important with parenting.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love that. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Again, we're trying to like keep it concise to our time. But we just really wanted to come on here and just talk a little bit about the parenting styles and kind of talking through how important it is for us to, when we are talking to our kids or we're making a decision without the parent being present or with the parent being present, that we're always presenting a united front. Like, y'all not going to play me. Y'all not going to try to play me, try to play us. We got y'all's number. Don't do it. And I think it creates and builds trust. I'm not no therapist or anything like that, but I do believe that the more they realize that we are a united front is the more they can trust that mommy and daddy, when we say what we mean what we say. Like, we're not like trying to do this wishy-washy, go in between kind of situation, but we stand on business together. So I remember before we go, remember when they were younger and they used to go and they try to they ask me for something and I say no. Jamie and I have not talked. However, from jump, we always said that anytime they try to do something like that, what do we do?
Yeah, what did your mom say?
Yep. Or I'll be like, what did your dad say? They'd be like, well, mommy said no. Well, the answer is no. Well, daddy said yes. All right. Well, the answer is yes. Even though I may not agree with the yes, I'm just like, if that's what daddy said, that's what it is. And I think it's just that consistency that more children need to see in their parents, in their home, as well as them knowing for sure, like, our parents, we can trust their word because their word is bond. And I think it's just important for them to know. And I think it builds relationship and it also keeps this tight as well, because it can't keep or be tight if we're not talking about it.
Correct.
So yeah, that's all, folks.
That was dope.
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm. See, we could do underneath, we can be here under 60 minutes. See?
Yep, we can.
Hey, Ronnie. She says, good evening, beautiful people. Yes, interesting conversation for sure. But we hope that you all have gleaned something or nothing.
We thank you for rocking with us.
Yes.
And for watching us. Remember, like, comment. Well, you have comment. Share. If it was good to you, then see if it'll be good to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. So we hope that you guys have a wonderful... Oh, that was horns?
Horns.
Okay. We hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, that you are safe. I believe next week we will be here.
That's right.
Will we?
Yeah, we'll be here.
Okay. BC said we don't mind more than 60 minutes.
Yeah, you got to go to sleep. You got to preach and you got to be there for Sabbath school. So
9:15.
Go to sleep, BC.
We love y'all. You guys have a good night. This is Carlene.
This is Jamie.
Peace.
Peace.
3, 2, 1.